The man watched in shock as the mysterious sea creature swam closer to his boat. Without any warning, it jumped up, aiming straight towards him. Every year, tourists flock to California's most famous coastal city, Newport Beach. There are countless attractions situated by the coasts, as well as fun activities for people of all ages. Recently, a man named James Gilkinson visited the place with his 11-year-old niece. They didn't have many things planned for the day, instead focusing on doing one particular thing: boat riding. However, while on the ocean, they encountered a strange creature that they would never forget. The weather couldn't have been better. James was excited for the opportunity to soak up all the sunlight and breathe in the fresh air. His niece had always been an adventurous girl, and she was looking forward to being on the boat just as much as he was. They walked along the beach, got into the boat, and headed out towards the sea. To say it was a beautiful day would be an understatement. At times, James would turn around to look at the crowds of happy people gathering on the sandy beach. His niece stood close to the rails, taking in the scenery. The waves were gentle and shone like crystals. Suddenly, she let out a small gasp. "I think there's something in the water," she said to her uncle. "I think it's following us." James hurried over to where she stood. He couldn't see anything beneath the water and explained to her that they were too close to the shores to see anything. Before heading back to where the boat's motor was, James assured her that there was nothing to worry about. The young girl wasn't exactly satisfied with his response, but decided to drop the matter. She turned her attention back to the water, hoping to catch another glimpse of the strange thing. She was certain she had spotted a wild animal. Over the next couple of minutes, the uncle and his niece sat in silence as their boat continued to ride further and further away from the shoreline. The seagulls squawked from above them as waves splashed against each other. The pair could no longer hear the chattering tourists. James estimated that they were around 2 miles, 3 kilometers off from the coast of Newport Beach. "Look, over there," the girl cried. This time, James believed her. Wasting little time, he rushed towards his niece. She pointed at an area to their left, and he squinted his eyes, trying his hardest to identify what she saw. James's heartbeat started to speed up. Together, they stared out at the swaying waves, eager to see the object better. Just watch what happens next. There is definitely something there, James thought to himself. However, the moving water was effective in hiding it. At first, James couldn't tell if it was a piece of seaweed or if it was a small animal. Going with his intuition, the man assumed that the thing was the latter. The unidentified creature was gray-brown in color and very shiny. Although it was a fair distance away from the boat, James thought it looked to be around the length of his arm. James navigated the boat so that it was facing the mysterious thing. Slowly, he began to move the boat forwards, wanting to get closer to it. His niece acted as his pair of eyes. She took out her phone and started to record the strange thing, just in case they ended up discovering something interesting. It turned out that the girl was right all along. Not only was the thing definitely an animal, but it had also been following them for some time now. Halting the boat, James leaned over the rail so that he could study the creature's appearance. He had heard of this animal before, but he never thought he'd see it in the flesh. The animal was a wild sea lion, and it was the only one in the area. James's niece was delighted. She handed her phone over to her uncle and waved to the sea lion, encouraging it to come closer. As it neared the boat, the details of the animal became clearer. Considering its small size, the sea lion was definitely juvenile. It displayed no hostile behavior and seemed very eager to communicate with humans. It kept its dark eyes glued on the girl, who couldn't hold back her laughter. She thought the animal was adorable. "Hi, baby," she called out to the young sea creature. With his niece's phone in one of his hands, James kneeled down so that the camera could see the animal better. It ended up swimming right beside the boat. The sea lion's head continued to bob up and down, but James noticed something off about the animal. It didn't seem to be very energetic, even though it was young. James believed that the sea lion was exhausted. Without a warning, the baby sea lion jumped up onto the boat. James and his niece stepped back, their mouths dropping open in shock. However, the animal didn't seem like it wanted to cause any trouble. Rather, it looked as if it wanted a break from all the swimming. James and the girl took pity on the baby animal. It must have been a very long way from home. They had never before heard of sea lions being spotted at Newport Beach. As the boat rocked ever so gently, the young sea lion looked out at the great expanse of blue water. At that moment, James thought that the animal resembled a human in its behavior. The sea lion stayed in that position for a few minutes, peacefully watching by the rail. James decided to join the animal, moving forwards until he was only a few steps away from it. Then, the sea lion spun around. James sat down to give the animal more space, not wanting to overwhelm it. The last thing he wanted to do was scare it away. This was the closest he had ever been to one of its kind. Fortunately for him, the sea lion seemed to be in a very good mood. The young creature neared James. Its small face was even cuter up close. The sea lion sniffed the man's knee a couple of times, just how a cat or dog would when meeting someone for the first time. This animal appeared to be no different from a typical house pet. After becoming more familiar with James's scent, the sea lion began to rub its head against his leg as a sign of affection. James couldn't believe his eyes. He was pretty sure that there were rules in place that cautioned people from interacting with any wild animals. However, the man didn't have the heart to tell the baby sea lion to go. The last thing that James wanted to do was cause the creature any harm, and it had been the one to approach the boat. Hesitantly, James placed a hand on the sea lion's wet coat, petting it as lightly as possible. The animal responded positively, moving its head with a little more energy. James's niece took the phone, which was still recording, from her uncle. The girl wanted to capture the sweet moment between her uncle and the wild creature on camera, knowing that it was going to be an interesting story to tell to others after their trip ended. Over the next hour, James and the sea lion cuddled. The girl had never seen her uncle smile like that before. He looked as if his wildest dreams had come true. She had always known that her uncle was a fan of animals and the sea, but when they had booked this holiday together, neither of them saw this situation coming. As heartbreaking as it was, time had come for James and the sea lion to part ways. The evening was nearing, so James and his niece needed to return the boat and head home. When the boat finally reached the harbor, James stood up gradually. The animal was intelligent, and it understood the situation. The sea lion looked at the humans with a happy expression before jumping off the boat and back into the sea. This was James's first encounter with a wild sea lion, and he couldn't have imagined it going any better than it had. It was also the first time his young niece had been approached by a wild animal. Both of them left Newport Beach with wide smiles and full hearts. It was a memory that they would treasure forever. What did you like most about this story? Comment below with what you thought of the video. I'd love to hear it. If you want to see more content like this, don't forget to give the video a like, share it with other people, and subscribe to this channel. I hope to see you again. Take care.